Hey guys, I'm Thiago Kifuri. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the headquarters of FuelTech. Anderson is with me today. And today we're gonna talk about the new Corvette C8 twin turbo. What were the main challenges to build that car here in-house?
First, the C8 has been a car for every car enthusiast, a car that is being very well expected. It's been so many years that everybody was expecting the mid-engine Corvette to come up. As we all in FuelTech are passionate about cars and we love racing and performance, so we pretty much had to develop this kit in-house to be able to have a car that was able to run the FuelTech controlling. So we always, I know this car has multiple ways of actually installing the turbos. There's a very popular way, especially because of the R8s or Lamborghinis, to put on the back of the car, which is it's very cool because you can see the turbos from the back. But this car, also not being the convertible, has a lot of space on the trunk area, and this being a glass and a very well ventilated, we thought it would be cool to have like here, especially after LMR racing made their kit with this position. So it was there's many ways of adding that. We can even do the turbo kit pretty much on the trunk in some cases. I'm sure there are people that are mounting on here. So this car has a lot of options to put the turbos in it. Even supercharger, procharger, there are
a lot of room here inside too.
And a lot of companies are coming with different solutions, which will be awesome because you can really mount in so many different ways, and there's a lot of space for everything. So it was cool.
So here we have the two turbos, two Garrett turbos, right?
So yeah, so what we done is like we got twins, the mirror turbos, so they can actually even lay on the opposite side. We run the exhaust through this area here, so we could have the exhaust coming up really pretty much straight to the exhaust that was on the car. It could even be a stock exhaust. We have an aftermarket from LMR here, so there's many options of running this. We actually using an intake manifold for port injection, and this is one of our biggest differences because we can run any fuel on this car. So the port injection actually allows us development time to run a different fuel from the fuel cell. So in this case right now we're running gas. It can either be like a 93 pump gas or MS100 from VP on the DI, and we can actually have the port injection right now is currently on the methanol. So that's a very precise way of actually adding fuel to the engine, at the same time keep the temperatures down. So what we had here was, we had the fuel cell. It's a air motive with a 5 gallon per minute pump. That it's a completely standalone fuel system, and to be honest, it fits perfect on the front here, and that allowed us to really have the stock fuel system completely stock. So we don't have to even tap into the fuel system. But in the same sense, we believe that very soon it will be kits or pumps assembled that you can actually really mount inside of the fuel cell, and that's also a tuner's or a shop choice to really how to really use the fuel on the cars.
So is there any internal upgrades in this engine?
Yeah, actually the LT2 is very, very similar to LT1. We even had the engine down, and this car is amazing on that part because you really can drop the complete cradle and transmission, everything, including even exhaust. It comes down in a couple of hours, let's say this way, and you can really, we actually figured that the LT2 piston rods, they actually matching the LT1, so we ordered a drop-in piston and rods that fitted perfectly. We had Proline Racing that assisted us on the engine assembly, and they confirmed all the balancing stuff. So it's a good idea, really an easy upgrade to do on this engine. Is really can buy less than $2,000. You can buy a good set of pistons and rods, and had this engine upgraded, because everybody knows the LT1 on the C7 Corvettes, they have a limit on the pistons and rods, so we didn't want to run into these limits very soon. So this was that's an easy upgrade, and I would say any turbo package that wants to go above 700-800 horsepower, they very likely would do that, and that's really easy to be done.
Cool, perfect. And well, in this engine we have the FT600 controlling a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the interesting part for now getting into the electronics of this car. So we had to do all the engine upgrade, the turbo kit fabrication. We had a lot of help from many shops. It would be even unfair to mention all the shops, but we are really trying to develop the electronics for these cars. Since there is no right now tuning solutions available, we really think that we can offer an option, along as other options that will come around, that will bring some of the benefits of something we were very experienced with. Because FuelTech, it's a standalone ECU that a lot of people knows from drag racing. We've been very successful on the last few years on drag racing everywhere, from import to domestic, and any kind of level of cars, and all our knowledge on really managing really high horsepower engines, or managing the vehicle or the traction control, all that part of our ECU is very, very advanced and successful, proven on the track. So at the same time, we actually have a lot of features for street cars, but in this particular car there's a lot of integration with the stock electronics, which are probably the biggest challenge for everyone. It's not a secret like to tune an engine. If you can control fuel and timing, that's really not really a big difference from an ECU to another ECU. So what we are actually challenged here is try to offer a solution that can integrate to the stock electronics on the car and still have all the benefits of the stock computers and stock ECU and TCU and all the electronics on the car, and at the same time give the tuner or the racer or the owner the best tools to really control safely the power of the engine. So this is probably where we can do a big difference. The FuelTech FT600 is our top of the line ECU. It can be found on bikes, or like drag race bikes, street cars, a Honda or a domestic pro mode, or any kind of vehicle. And it's the same ECU, same, let's say, shelf unit that we sell. And we used this FT600 in this car just because we wanted to add a lot of sensors. Since it's being an R&D car, we wanted to make sure we could record as much data we could, and as well control as much as outputs and features we possible want to do. So the 600 gives plenty of inputs and outputs to be really controlling pretty much everything on the car, on any car. So then on this car, we started, the first step was pretty much run the port injection. So these cars, they come only with DI, direct injection. In this car, it's controlled by the stock computer. And what we've done was adding a standalone ECU, pretty much controlling the port injection. So we can even add fuel on idle, we can add fuel on the vacuum area, or even if you need to tune or add more fuel during a vacuum or normal tuning areas, you can manipulate the fuel, and as well you can supplement more fuel once you see boost. So one thing that these cars they really need is as well to keep the stock computer happy. There's a few tricks, like keep the map sensor from OEM from seeing a boost. So let's say a map clamper, voltage clamper is mandatory for these cars. Pretty much the GM computer, once it sees more than 4 seconds with boost in the intake manifold, it can actually enter into limp mode. So this is some kind of tricks you can run around, since there's no access into the stock computer. But so far this been very well in terms of managing the stock computer to keep working. So adding the port injection in a very precise way, we actually even wanted to have more sensors. So we had EGTs on this car, so we can monitor individual gas temperature from each cylinder. So that actually is very helpful if you're tuning a new development vehicle. For example, this car, they have they call V4 or DOD mode, which pretty much disable 4 of the 8 cylinders and runs in V4 mode. So even I was even showing you later before, we actually even have on the EGTs you can even see that what happens when which cylinder deactivates and how it runs. So at the same time with the EGTs we can precisely trim per cylinder, and having port injection per cylinder, the FuelTech can actually trim per cylinder as well. So if you really need to compensate something on the engine, which is more usual than expected, every engine usually needs a trim per cylinder. So we figure like number 7 on these engines, they usually need, or in this particular application, you need a little more fuel. And we can actually trim that kind of, it may be related to intake manifold, it may be related to any other particular aspects, but having the ability pretty much of being able to trim per cylinder the fuel is really helpful. So the port injection is running, like I mentioned, on a separate fuel cell, but it could be running from the same fuel system of the car, so be running, that will simplify the installation. You don't really have a second fuel cell, but at the same time right now we decided to have a separate fuel cell so we don't mess with the fuel pump capacity, the OEM, and not even the fuel lines, and as well we can even mix 2 different fuels. We also decided not to install an intercooler or a liquid to air intercooler on the first stage of this project, because we wanted to have this made a lot more simple the process, since we didn't have to add a liquid radiator or that kind of solution, or even the chili, so the inter-chili solution, which is related with AC, which seems a great idea. But at the same time, we knew it's still limited on low boost right now, so the intercooler, considering we're adding methanol as the port injection, we have a pretty much solid combustion chamber temperature on that. And that part of the high horsepower engine controls, we're very experienced, especially for the domestic side. We have a hub dyno here, which you guys are going to see. We're running on the hub dyno, this car, and we've been dynoing methanol. Is pretty much the most common fuel being used on this car. So the temperature plays an interesting role on how the methanol really likes intake air temperature.
Okay.
Something else I want to talk to you guys is what are the other sensors. I just told that we have the EGTs recording the individual cylinder temperature here, and to read that we actually use 2 EGT4s, which are a FuelTech product that pretty much convert 4 channels of EGT from each side into CAN bus, so the FuelTech reads that CAN bus. And we also added the back pressure sensors, which are, we have a canister here, so these are the back pressure sensors and for each side, so we can monitor exactly how the back pressure sensor of each side is going. And since this is a R&D car as well, we have the turbo speed sensors. So if you see, each turbo has a turbo speed sensor. In this case here, it actually records and even display on the screen of the FT600 the turbo speed of each sensor. It sounds like overkill for a street car, for sure it is, but like I said, for R&D car you really want to make sure everything is balanced, everything is equalized. So the back pressure in this car is within less than half PSI. The turbo speeds are like perfectly dead on each side, so if anything goes wrong in each side of the engine or any cylinder, we immediately can identify that problem. So those sensors are really, really helpful. Then we have on the air motif side or the fuel cell side, this pump is a very strong pump, and if you actually turn this pump on, you can hear even from the inside of the car. And at the same time, it has a variable speed, which is very cool because you don't have to run the max speed on the pump all the time. So what we done is, like, the FuelTech's controlling the pump just before the port injection actually needs to run. It will actually turn on the pump, stabilize the fuel pressure, And once it actually ramps the duty cycle, we actually increase the pump speed. So this is, it's a detail on the control, but increases a lot of the, even the noise in the car, because you're running, when you're idling or on the traffic, you don't really need to have the pump on all the time. So this is the kind of details you can add. And we are also adding a fuel level sensor in the methanol tank. So the ECU can really knows what is the methanol fuel level sensor, so you don't really have to keep opening and checking how much methanol you have.
Okay.
And not only that, we have a fuel pressure sensor specifically for the port injection. And that fuel pressure sensor, not only data logs and tells the FuelTech if it's everything okay, but you can even have an alert settings that can let you know if you have any problems like fuel pressure related. That could be either fuel pump or you're running out of fuel if you mess that up. So you can really be safe that you really have methanol supply and the fuel pressure is properly, everything is fine.
Cool.
So continuing everything the FuelTech is doing here, there's also the boost controller. So the FuelTech, all the FuelTech product ECUs, they also control any kind of boost controller. So in this case, we can run like multiple ways of doing the boost control. It can be a time-based, a wheel speed-based, or even a RPM-based. So it really simplifies because you have the same product really controlling the boost control. We also have on the fuel management, the FuelTech is reading the wideband sensors, and we actually added 2 new wideband sensors completely standalone from the stock vehicle. So this way you could even be a very precise and safely reading on the sensor without depending on a CAN bus or something like that from the stock computer. The O2 correction on the FuelTech, it's amazing and fitted very well on this application because we can actually target the air fuel, the target air fuels from the stock computer and match them. And this makes they really work together really well. So you can have actually a perfect air fuel, and not only depending on the stock computer to correct the air fuel, but you have both working really, really precisely. So you don't really see any kind of injectors or methanol coming in. It's really, really smooth.
The transition.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So you talk a lot about the ECU. Can you show the dashboard to understand the information?
You have a seat.
So here you are inside the C8 Corvette. It's a gorgeous interior, and here we have the ECU, right?
Yeah, we were thinking we really wanted to have the screen from the FuelTech able to be so we could see the car during the run, because there's a lot of information that is really helpful when you actually drive the car or tuning the car or even idling. You want to make sure you see the information. So since let's say, I'll make a joke, since we didn't drink too much coffee, there was a good place to actually replace the cup holders.
And to have the cup holders here.
So we have this is a trim that we sell. It's like a plastic piece that actually have you can trim exactly the size you want and really install on any place of the car you want. Yeah. So run the engine.
So let's fire up. Woo!
We can see, for example, the information like the engine RPM, map sensor, which is the FuelTech map sensor, the O2 left and O2 right. We can have this is the fuel pressure from the port injection. This is the turbo speed RPM from turbo 1, turbo number 2, injection time. We can really have more information like EGT per cylinder, and this is really all real time. So everything you want to add here, if you want to add a different sensor, you can really add the sensor, have it here. You can always come here and adjust tuning or boost controller levels, or you can have a different map for a race map or something like that it will really help you quickly make any changes on the car. So this is pretty much how we actually take control, and again, this is the complete ECU. This is the ECU that controlling the this is the ECU that is connected to this car, controlling a lot of stuff and working together with the stock computer, stock controllers from the car.
Cool. Let's see, working. Can I have it a little bit?
Yeah.
Very cool. And also here we have a nice rear view with the turbo mounted on the top of the engine.
Yeah, some people ask if they fit under the hood, but we checked it. It was like nice to put the turbos on the hood level, because you really can see really a lot from the outside, and the temperature is really fine, because that actually glass was developed already to be over the engine bay, so it's already get a lot of temperature anyway, and it's been a fun project. We've been working in this project for a few months. The build itself technically took 8 days. You guys can see some of the images about how we made the build and the custom kit, everything. It was amazing challenge, not only as a company level, but as a personal level. Everybody was involved in trying to make this work really well. And now we're actually in a stage where we're developing a lot on the CAN bus integration with the stock electronics, especially with the TCU. We have a lot of working on the electronics on the TCU. The transmission is right now the limitation on most of these projects. There's a few others turbo C8s running outside, and it's cool to see more people working these cars. How much people is excited about doing that as well. We are. So we know that the transmission holds little over 700 horsepower, and we actually dynoed the car with 10 pounds of boost and made 713 wheel horsepower. Without flipping the clutch, but the problem is if you try to shift with that kind of boost on every gear shift, when it actually increases the boost considerable, the clutches they cannot hold the torque. So it seems that this transmission and clutch pack was really developed to be a very tailor-made to this OEM car. The OEM car, once we actually added these ladies here, it really increased a lot of the torque. So this car will definitely need clutch upgrades, and fortunately there's a few companies working on that kind of solution. We hopefully see more results coming and more companies working on the clutch solutions, and as well we are working on the integration on the CAN bus with the TCU, and more information, or the more information the ECU can have, the more we can control on the pressures on the DCT, on that kind of stuff. That will bring the next level of performance available for these cars.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anderson, what is your intention to offer to the market to a C8 Corvette?
So first, like I said, we made this turbo kit more because there was no really a market available kits, but we are exclusively working or focusing on the electronics solution.
Okay.
So in this car, and for once we can offer to the market, our idea is to offer a plug-and-play harness that pretty much connects between the ECU and the stock harness without really having to cut or custom install anything on the car. So it makes really easy and reversible upgrade, where we have really the stock computer still running, and we have the FuelTech ECU and the electronics around to be added to the car on that harness. So our idea is really work together with many of these shops that are working already on the turbo kits and the supercharger kits, or many kind of power adders. Even nitros, it needs this kind of technology because they reach it really easy, the torque limitations of the transmission as well. So our idea is really to improve and develop everything that has to be done. We're progressing really well. We have a big team of R&D working on this project. It's not just for us is a challenge as well, because like I mentioned, we're a company that comes from a very strong drag racing market, and we actually want to even prove ourselves or show that we can actually go over different markets and show how complete the product actually is. So everyone that is maybe looking to have an electronic solution, we're open to discuss, we're glad to talk and communicate. We really don't not trying to hold many secrets. It's like something that the more the market really understand what's happening and how to work on this, we believe that we'll advance. And on a personal level, we're all passionate about this and this kind of car. So we definitely want to see. We saw already some cars on the 9 seconds. That's fantastic. And everybody who works on these cars knows the potential to go on the 8 seconds and quicker and a quarter mile, and also have a street car that is pretty much a supercar. So the mid-engine really makes this car unique, and having a GM platform engine, it's an interesting mix about performance and everything. And as well, the car really feels like a supercar. So I believe the car will be very popular in the next decade or in the next few years for sure. Everybody's crazy about those cars.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for all the information. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to comment below, and see you in the next video here at FuelTech channel. Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys, and wait for the next chapters.